It's the NFL offseason, but rumors are flying that impact the Chicago Bears. We'll talk about that and 3 things the Bears must do before training camp starts.
Huddle up!
What's up, Bob? It's me, Justin. No Rob here on this episode, so I had to step up and open up the episode. But it's great to see you, and I'm excited to talk. I almost feel like a Justin's rant is coming in regards to...
There might just be. Yeah. I mean, this week's just like, even though there's nothing really going on in the NFL, anytime there's even a little morsel of something that happens, everybody just kind of freaks out, and how's it going to affect the Bears? So we definitely got some stuff to talk about here.
And I feel like it's more than just simply talking about it to talk about it. But that's what I'm starting to feel is what's happening is people are just putting stuff out there because there's not enough to talk about. So things are getting out of hand. And if you don't mind, I'd like to start with
absolutely.
Rumors about Cole Kmet being on the trading block. I don't know if that's how it's being phrased, but obviously there was a big trade between Miami and Pittsburgh that involved Jalen Ramsey and Minkah Fitzpatrick, but Jonnu Smith, who's a tight end for Miami, was also involved in that trade, going to Pittsburgh. And so as soon as that happened, I'm starting to see stuff as if like the Bears couldn't wait to get rid of Cole Kmet, and this is just the opportunity they must, jump on to abandon his salary. And I think it's total nonsense. I mean, first of all, I feel that Cole Kmet is right now about in the prime of his career. He did get an extension 2 years ago, but it's not one that like straps the team for cash. And yes, they did draft a tight end at 10. That's a sign that they like this guy quite a lot. But he's 21 years old. He's injured, has not practiced one time yet. This is not the time to go ahead and get rid of the guy that is a proven commodity when beyond Loveland and Kmet, I'm not too excited about any other tight end in that room.
Yeah, and the thing is, there's no advantage at all for the Bears trading Cole Kmet right now, even just from the salary cap standpoint. Not that the Bears should be worried about that, but that's not an advantage. There's no clearing of cap that you can make another move, right? All you're doing would be making your team worse. Like Cole Kmet is still a good, productive player right now, and this tight end that you did draft to maybe replace him eventually, but also they could just complement each other, isn't even healthy. Right, we don't even know what he fully looks like and is going to be ready. So there's just no advantage to doing it right now. Now, I mean, let's be honest, maybe there is something down the line where Cole Kmet doesn't fit into long-term plans. Fine. But right now, you would have to be completely overwhelmed by some type of trade offer to move off of him right now. Like right now, what you want is all of your position groups to be as strong as possible so that you can enter the season as strong as possible. And Cole Kmet on your roster helps that. Trading him hurts that. So I will say the only type of trade scenario that I might be willing to entertain is if like you're trading Cole Kmet for a starting left tackle, right? Or you're trading Cole Kmet for another position of some type of need or value, like a clear long-term upgrade over DeAndre Swift, something like that. Maybe I can get behind. But if you're just talking about trading Cole Kmet for a third-round pick right now, no. That offer will be there in October when maybe it makes more sense to consider that. But right now, no, we're doing top 3 needs for the Bears before training camp. Need number 1, don't trade Cole Kmet.
If a team is getting ready to trade a starting caliber left tackle, that GM should be fired that day. But another thing, you touched on this. Ben Johnson, as a play caller last season, ran 12 personnel, which what that means is 1 running back, 2 tight ends, 33% of the time. It was 3rd most in the NFL. Now, imagine you are a defensive coordinator, and this is with the assumption that I'm making and that quite a few people around the league are making, which is that Loveland is a true top level prospect that could be a game changer. If not this season, definitely down the line. If you're a defensive coordinator preparing to play the Bears, wouldn't you find it much, much easier if Kmet is not in the picture and it's Loveland and then Smythe and then Jeff? I should have known his name because he was a breakout apparently, but whoever that other guy is, Wilson, I think. Or
he's not even on this depth chart I'm looking at. Yeah, but yeah, Wilson, I think is his name. Yeah,
Wilson. You have Kmet and you have Loveland. Okay, now I know as Bears fans, we have not been used to anything that resembles a high power offense. But when you're a high power offense, or when you're trying to be that, you don't look at the very first time you think you have redundancy and get ready to start shipping people out the door. You become a defensive coordinator's nightmare because they don't know where the attack is coming from. So I find it just appalling that, I mean, is it going to be every time a tight end spot is available? Oh, let's trade Cole Kmet. Like you said, come the trade deadline, who knows how the season's going for the Bears? Who knows how it's going for other teams? You can revisit it then. Absolutely not now.
Yeah, and like you said, 33% of the time there's going to be 2 tight ends on the field, right? That doesn't mean 33% of the time you should have your starting tight end on the field and a backup on the field. No, you need 2 starting tight ends on the field when you're playing the 2 tight end personnel. It'd be like saying, when we're going to play nickel 60% of the time on defense, we're just going to put a backup at nickel. Like, no, you need a starting nickel back to be on that field. And then the other 40% of the time, when you have 3 linebackers on there, you need a starting Sam, right? So it's the same thing on offense. We're not just putting 1 tight end out there and then his backup for 33%. You need 2 starting tight ends for those plays, for those to work. So I think we're in agreement. We're not trading Kmet, right?
Absolutely. No way.
Okay. So next thing, need number 2 before training camp starts is sign more depth in the trenches. Let me just show you the second string offensive line as it stands right now.
Don't make me watch.
And this is with Braxton Jones as a healthy starting left tackle. So keep that in mind.
Yikes.
Ron Amagaji, left tackle. Ryan Bates, left guard. Doug Kramer, center. Bill Murray, right guard. Ozzie Trepolo, right tackle. Of those 5 guys, how many are you like, yeah, that's a good backup?
0. I mean, I
want Trepolo, a second round pick. He should be a good backup, but so
all of that's on projection, though. I mean, I guess as a backup, with his pedigree, you believe he's good. We've seen in very limited action Bill Murray be able to come in as a backup and show you that he's serviceable in that role, but not like he's your 6th guy that he's a no doubter that you can put in at multiple positions. Now, that was supposed to be Ryan Bates. He was supposed to be depth at guard and depth at center, and apparently even starting caliber at one or both of those potential positions. But we have not seen it since he's been in Chicago. I'm not going to speak to it as if it's reporting on my end, but is this guy even going to play? Or are injuries just going to end his career? I'm not sure. But with that all being said, you want to make sure that this team is ready to compete. And you did it at the starting level, right? You got the big names who are starters, but never, and I'm almost willing to stand behind the word never do you see your 5 starters just play every snap of the season. That does not happen.
Never. And those snaps that aren't going to go to those starters need to be by capable players, right? And so I'm not suggesting that they need to go out and sign. Like, there's not a starting left tackle out there, right? But there has to be some guards better than Ryan Bates out there. There has to be some centers better than Doug Kramer, even though Luke Newman's 6th round pick. Like, that's fine. If Luke Newman goes to camp and crushes it and beats a veteran center that you might bring in, fine. Say, thanks for hanging out for a few weeks for us, Mr. Veteran Center, but we were going to go with our young guy who has finally proven himself. You can't just hand Doug Kramer or Luke Newman the backup center job. It just can't happen. So here's some interesting names that are still available, I think. Brandon Scherf is still a free agent, but he's not a guy that you cut at the end of August training camp, right? He's a guy who's going to go somewhere where there's a clear path to a roster spot for sure. Like, we're looking for more the Matt Pryor types like we had last year, right? Who definitely should be on an NFL roster, doesn't require starting snaps, but if he has to get in, he's fine. And if should a young guy come up and clearly outperform him, then you know what? Hey, you're a vested veteran. You're still going to be fine. Thanks for hanging out, right? So Will Hernandez is probably the one guy that stands out to me. He got plenty of starting experience, but clearly at this point in his career, 29 years old, teams aren't knocking down his door to come start for them. So that's an interesting name. And the other guy I'm looking at is Dalton Risner, is a guy who just kind of bounced around from team to team, but has some flexibility from guard to center. So that would be an interesting move.
Wow. What I like about both those names of those guys, I'm looking at the list as well. They're just under 30, and this is not necessarily like if you sign one of these guys and it hits, kind of like how Matt Pryor did, it would be nice to have that guy. I would sign them to a 1-year deal if you can, but it'd be nice to see if you are able to hold on to them in that same comfortable role of, hey, you're a backup, but we need you. Like I said, 5 guys don't play the whole season, and they have the experience. So those 2 names definitely jumped out at me. One name that jumped out at me, but really only because it sent me down memory lane, was Cody Whitehair.
Yeah, I intentionally
Did you
didn't
see
say
that
one,
as well?
but yeah, I mean, he was, yeah, we're looking for a little bit better than even Cody Whitehair was 2 or 3 years ago. So I can't imagine 2 or 3 years later,
Very
whatever.
true.
But the tackle list, I think, is a little bit more interesting because there are some names that I think it'd be fine to bring them in. Like Jedrick Willis is one who was a kind of a former first-round pick, I believe, for Cleveland a few years ago. He's still sitting out there. So if you get some bad news on Braxton Jones, and you're pretty sure that maybe Amagaji isn't ready, and you want Trapolo to compete with somebody, maybe a guy like Jedrick Willis is there. Isaiah Wynn is a guy who's kind of bounced around, deserves to be on a roster as a tackle somewhere. And I had another name here, but Tyron Smith is probably the same boat as Scherf, where it's just he's not coming here to compete. He wants something locked down. But there are names here who can improve the depth on the offensive line.
Now, I skipped over Amagaji when I kind of talked about the guys we currently have in the building. I think, kind of like we just kind of said, Trapilo can be that. I want to give Amagaji that credit because as bad as it looked on his opening debut, I guess you could say, I believe Monday Night Football against the Vikings.
Yeah.
Sounds familiar. But anyway, that did not go well at all. But he was thrown into a very bad situation all in all. Coming off injury, didn't get the practice reps that week because I think it was a late scratch situation with Braxton Jones. So that sticks in your mind. But then as time went on, if you're, again, just talking about a guy that's going to get you to the end of a game, I feel a little better that he can at least be that. So I do feel a little better at tackle.
I'm not. I think many things can be true. It can be true that Karan Amagaji was not set up for success. He was injured. He wasn't coached right, all those things. And it can be that he's also not very good, right? Like both of those things can be true. And I think when those things are both true, you see it look as bad as it did, right? Like, I don't care how much you not coach, or I don't care how much maybe your legs aren't letting you be 100%. If you're still down in your stance half a second after the snap, you're going to get beat. Like, I don't think that's something else going on with you. So we'll kind of see. But kind of want to move on to the defensive side here real quick.
The other side of the ball.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
I think it's less pressing. I think the Bears did a really good job of addressing the depth, especially in the interior. But I do think that there's still room on edge for one of these. Hey, let's get a veteran in here to compete with some of these young guys. And if Robinson beats him out, then Robinson beats him out. Good. But you have some names in front of you want to go through?
Well, before we get to the names, I guess I just do want to say this. I could see specifically edge being a place that they want to add some depth, but maybe they first want to see what they have in-house. But I will say, and we should have brought this up a long time ago on the show, and maybe we did in little parts here and there, but there were 2 concerns by omission, by the fact that there were certain guys you just did not hear enough about in the offseason that actually raises some concern. And you're shaking your head. So I think do you know who I'm talking about?
I know exactly who you're talking about. 5th round rookie from last year.
Yes. Booker. There's promise. We thought that like this was his year to kind of step in. And if we're hearing about anybody pushing, it shouldn't be Dominique Robinson. It should be Booker. And so that's concerning. And then there's Dio, who you gave, I guess, big time money to come in. You expect him to be a starter. You expect him to be a guy that you can depend on to be across from Sweat. And I just feel like I didn't hear very much about him. Now, the pads aren't on, and I know he's more of a power guy. So maybe there's some to that. And the opposite could be said for Dominique Robinson. He's like that quick twitch athlete type guy, and with the pads off might look much, much better than when they go on. But maybe they want to see what those 2 guys have.
Better look good without the pads.
Yes. So maybe they want to see what they have with those 2 guys with pads on before they go to the free agent. But there are some good names.
Right. So one name that jumps off the top is Matthew Judon. because the Bears almost gave up a lot for him a couple years ago, and then offseason is interesting. But then there's your Smith brothers, the Preston Smiths, the Darius Smith, the Davian Clowney's still out there. DeMarcus Walker's a guy who we really like on the show, very flexible up and down the line, who can get some Brandon Graham's a super veteran, but if all you're looking for is a veteran to come in and play a couple third downs and, show some young guys the way, that'd be interesting. Like Jerry Hughes, Passignon, Jonathan Bullitt, like there's tons of ends that fit the bill to just, hey, come out with us for training camp and see what happens.
So pre-show, you mentioned a guy that you didn't just now name. So were you leaving him off on purpose?
I mean, are you talking about Von Miller?
Von Miller. Yeah.
I mean, there's so much going on with him. First of all, his age, and then there's just a lot of off the field stuff. And we know how this Bears team handles off the field stuff. And it's just like, I just can't, I don't even, and he's kind of a smaller guy. Like, I feel stupid saying Von Miller's a small guy, but like, he's not necessarily that 6'5", 275 prototype. So,
and I don't know, are we putting too much stock in that? I mean, we keep going back to that, like, oh, he's a Dennis Allen guy. He's a Dennis Allen type guy. And at some point it's like, well, you got to fill out your roster with guys that are going to produce. And
for sure. At this point, when you're not like, picking early in a draft or like really cherry picking exactly what you want, now you just need guys who can play. I understand that.
Right. But that was a lengthy list. And so, again, I think the Bears might be comfortable seeing what they have and hoping that should they need to dip into last second free agents, some of these names will still be there. But you never know.
All right, so last critical thing the Bears must do before training camp is get their key players healthy. And the three that come off top of mind is Braxton Jones, number one, and then Colston Loveland and Luther Burden, right? These guys should be key contributors, and they just really haven't participated much at all to this point. And so, we can't get 2-3 weeks into training camp and these guys still aren't full participants. They're still not competing. You still don't exactly know how they're going to contribute.
Yeah. I mean, with Braxton Jones, this is still what we were told was the timeline, that training camp was the goal, have him ready to go by training camp. But as you just alluded to, if that's not the case, I actually said on this show that I liked that Amagaji and Trapillo are getting these extra reps with Braxton Jones being absent. But come training camp, now it's about gearing up for the season you're about to go down. And I don't want either of those two guys to just be gifted the starting left tackle role, which is a critical position, due to a default that the guy that maybe deserves it or could prove that he deserves it is injured. So that is crucial. But like I said, the timetable we were always told was about this. I haven't heard that he's behind schedule, so hopefully he's there. Now, for me, the Luther Burden one is the one that's a little bit more of a mystery and a concern because he did start at the rookie camp, the mandatory rookie camp right after the draft, made a couple plays that, opened some people's eyes. But I believe that's when he had the injury, and they said it was kind of like first it was some weird mystery, and then they said it's soft tissue. But then to not have participated in anything else down the line, he's not signed yet either. So now I'm hearing there could be some of that going on.
Yeah, there's
training camp is the deadline.
Yeah, when there's smoke like that, you hope that the fire isn't burning, that Luther Burden is going to be a problem, right? But there's weird stuff. That why did a guy this talented even fall? And then you see kind of how he reacted to falling. Was that the best way? Like there's certain ways you can go about it, but he certainly was pouting. Now, whether he pouted in a productive way or not, but he clearly was pouting. And then he gets injured. Is he fighting to get back at all? And then you kind of hear some stuff coming out of the locker room that it might not go well. So it is concerning. It is troubling. Luckily, this is a spot where the Bears actually are insured, right? They have Zacchaeus, Alamade Zacchaeus, who should be able to play this exact role that he was signed to play in the first place before you even brought Luther Burden in. So hopefully there's some insurance there. But Luther Burden is still one of your most talented offensive players, and you want that guy. Now, we're talking about things the Bears must do before training camp. Obviously, some of this stuff is out of their control. It's not like they can just wave their magic wand and make everybody happy or make everybody healthy. But, if training camp is going to go as, A-plus plan, as good as it can be, these guys need to be participants and they need to be competing.
Well, and I left you one name to talk about. Do you want to talk about?
Well, yeah, I guess for Colston Loveland for sure. Like it's kind of the Braxton Jones thing in that we haven't heard that he's behind schedule, right? So he's still been participating everything he can do. No one said there's setbacks. It's always been this kind of timeline. He should be ready for training camp. Should be ready into August, right? So until we hear that, well, Colston Loveland's not ready, I guess we're not saying we should be worried about Colston Loveland. We're just saying we need to see a healthy Colston Loveland as early as possible in training camp so that this offense can learn and grow and gel as fast as possible.
Well, and they say tight end is one of the toughest positions as a rookie to really get acclimated to the league. And part of that is probably just the actual physicality and strength that it requires. Mm-hmm. And to know that with this injury, he hasn't been able to do heavy lifting. I mean, I'm hearing reports that his weight has come quite a bit down. I mean, I don't know how these NFL players do the whole, gain this many, lose this many. I don't know if I want to know. It's kind of like how the hot dog is made, but it's a chance that he's going to have some early struggles that maybe are just due to this unfortunate timing of this rehab. So, but yeah, I think long-term, there's still so much promise for this team, but training camp does feel like a new start and that it's real. Like now it's about week 1. Like I said, Monday night against the Vikings, we don't want it to look like what it looked like last time. So super excited still. Mm-hmm. 3 things that we touched on, I think, are just still critical factors.
Yeah, absolutely. So get in the comment section. Let us know what you think is your most important thing the Bears need to do before training camp. Do you agree with our takes? Not, of course, let us know. We love the discussion. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. We're also going to give a little plug for our last snake draft that we had. Was absolute blast. We went through the biggest mistakes in franchise history and just laughed and smiled the entire time. I promise it's not a depressing walk through everything. It was a therapy session more than anything. So go check that out if you haven't yet. But you got anything else?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, bear down.
Close up.
Ready, break.